Welcome back, class. CAD 37 CATIA surfacing. In this video, we're going to go over the extrude command. So we are starting the surfacing tutorials in CATIA. We're not going to cover all the tutorials available on the website. It's going to cover the main ones. So hopefully you have already completed the wireframe tutorials, spline, line command, point command, planes, etc. All right, so how do we get to these tutorials? Okay, so you can either go through these links or you can go to Canvas. So log into my ECC, go to Canvas. I'm assuming the setup is the same for you guys, for students, as it is for us faculty or something close to it. Look for Canvas, click on Canvas. Okay, go to your calendar or courses. So go to calendar. And here are the latest lectures and assignments. Okay, so before we go to the surfaces tutorials, let's go to curvature continuity. So if I click on it, there it is. I do have a lecture on curvature continuity. So if you want to understand curvature continuity, which is very important if you end up working with aerodynamic surfaces or working in an automotive studio department where they make the automotive clay models, you need to understand curvature continuity. It's very important. So you may want to go through the lecture here, the continuity PDF file. And I also have a YouTube video explaining curvature continuity. Okay, let me close this. Okay, so for the surfaces tutorials, I'm going to click on this one. So I did send you a zipped file with all the tutorials we're going to cover in surfacing. You can also go through the website. I'll show you both ways. Okay, so I'm going to click on this zipped folder. So these are compressed. This is a compressed folder with CATIA files for your surfacing tutorials. Click on it. And then I'm going to download it, right? So I'm going to download the zipped folder, compressed folder with all the CATIA files. So click on it. It's going to download. And it should take it into your downloads folder. Okay, so let's go to your files. And it should be in your downloads folder. Downloads. And there it is. I downloaded it twice. Let me delete one of them. Okay, so once you download the zipped compressed folder, you want to right click copy or cut and paste it. I'm going to cut and I'll paste it onto the desktop. You should probably place it in your flash drive or on your hard drive, somewhere where it's easy to go back and find. So I'm going to paste it on my desktop. Okay, so don't forget to extract. So here I am on my desktop. Let me go to the desktop. I'll minimize this. I can minimize all by clicking here at the very corner, bottom right corner. It'll minimize everything. Okay, so here's my creating folders. Obviously my creating surfaces folder, and it's zipped. So don't forget to right click extract. If you go straight into the zipped folder and not the extracted one, you may have problems later on saving your work. Okay, so don't forget to extract. So right click, extract all, and it'll create a duplicate folder. Yeah, I'll keep it on the desktop. If you want to change location, maybe like your flash drive or C drive, I'll just hit extract and it creates a duplicate folder. There it is. Okay, so in here we have the creating surfaces tutorials. So we have extrude, revolution, offset, swept, fill, multi, sections, and blended. These are the tutorials we're going to cover. Okay, so if I go to extruded, which is going to be our first tutorial, and by the way, I already have CATIA open, right? I already have CATIA. So you can just double click and it should load into CATIA, or let me drag and drop. Another option is to drag and drop. I can left mouse click, hold on to this file and drag it. Okay, so that's one option. All right, so let me close it. Another option is to go File Open, right? Go to File Open, go to your desktop or flash drive, wherever you have your Surfaces Tutorials folder. Okay, so I'll go to Desktop. And again, don't go to your zipped folder. Okay, so don't go to the Creating Surfaces zipped folder, go to the extracted one. And you can open it from here. And that'll open up your tutorial for Extrude. All right, so let's go ahead and close this up, and I'll show you another way. All right, so let's go back to Canvas. All right, also in here, let me go ahead and close this up, this tab. So also in Canvas, I placed a Word document, tutorial links for surfaces, right? So we can click on this one. Okay, so in this Word document, I have the links. Okay, so if you'd rather go through the links here to get to the tutorials, and just a reminder, this may not be a safe website, so just a warning there. I couldn't find the actual website, at least access to the actual website where we can safely download the stuff. This used to be the one that we used to use. Okay, but I was able to find this other website. I think it's an educational website for a college or university that also teaches CATIA. Okay, so if I want to go to all the tutorials, I can select this one, right click, copy, go to a new tab and paste in the browser, enter, and that'll take me to the tutorials. If it doesn't work on Edge, try Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer. It sure would work on one of them. It doesn't seem to work on all. Okay, I'm not an IT person and I don't want to understand why it works on one site but not the other. Okay, so if it's working fine, you should be able to hover over shape design and styling workbenches, modules, apps. Okay, so generative shape design is the one that looks like a little lawn chair, right? Okay, so once we're in, remember, slide the window up and down, grab this horizontal line, slide up and down. So we've been covering the wireframe tutorials, right? Been covering the wireframe, and now we're going to go over to surfaces. Okay, so we're going to do the extruded surfaces tutorial first. Okay, so you can simply click here, extruded surfaces, and it'll upload that tutorial in the lower window pane. So in 3, 2, 1, extruded surfaces, and there it is. And you can slide the window pane up. All right, so, and you can open that same cat part that we just opened in CATIA a few minutes ago. We can open it from here. Okay, another option is to, instead of having to deal with the window panes here, you can right click on extrude surfaces and open in a new tab. Okay, instead of looking at it down here, it'll fill up the entire window. As you can see here, there's no window pane here. Okay, so you can simply open your cat part from here, extrude. And you can open it from here, right? Open file. So you should already have CATIA open, right? And open, and it should load it into CATIA. Okay, so same file that I placed on Canvas, right? Okay, so that's one way. Or if you want to go straight to the tutorial, extrude, you can just right click, copy, and paste this link to get you to the extrude tutorial. All right, so let's continue on. Okay, so here's the tutorial, and let's go ahead and follow the instructions. Okay, so we're going to take a curve and we're going to extrude it to create a surface. Okay, so we have this curve already in our tutorial CATIA file, and we're going to create the surface. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this wireframe, extrude it, and then we're going to play with some of the options, like extrude up to an element instead of giving a dimension. All right, so, and this tutorial is in millimeters. Okay, so let's go back to CATIA. So let's go to Tools, Options, and go into millimeters. Okay, go to General, Parameters and Measure. You should already be a Units expert. Go to Units, and yes, we are in millimeters. Okay, so we're good. So I can just cancel out of here. But before I do the tutorials, whoever generated these tutorials, so they can be able to take screenshots and paste it into the website and give instructions. It's obvious that they took the background and turned it from blue, dark blue, into a white background. So if some of these curves are hard to see, either change the color or change the background. Let's see what happens when we change it to an all white background. Okay, so to do that, go to Display. Since we are already in Tools Options, go to Display. Go to Visualization tab. There it is. So I just clicked over. There's a bunch of tabs. Go to Visualization. And currently our background is dark blue, right? And then it has the graduated color background. See how it changes in shade here towards the bottom as you go further away from the center, or from top downward. You can always remove that, right? And it'll just be a solid color. We're going to leave it. Click. See how it makes it solid here in the preview. Graduate it. There it is. That's what we have currently. So instead, I'll just make it white in the background. I prefer not to use a white background because it's not easy on the eyes. I always prefer a dark background. I prefer a dark blue or black background. It's just easier on the eyes. Save your vision. You don't want to be like me after getting warnings from my older coworkers, right? Like, protect your eyes, protect your eyes. You know, get some eyeglasses that have some type of protection like that film that look a little bit purplish, so it can filter some of the light rays, right? Okay, so protect your eyesight. Should have taken their advice, because now I'm starting to wear glasses, which I never did before. All right, so hit OK. Now the background is white. Okay, so if you're okay with this background, okay, so I'll be alternating between backgrounds from white background to the default dark blue. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this curve and do an extrude. Okay, so let me go ahead and open up my lecture notes. Typically when I lecture in person, I go over the lecture notes first. But since we're doing everything online, I'm just going straight to the tutorial, straight to the handouts without much of a lecture, since you can just follow along on the YouTube video. All right, so let's go to my lecture notes. And at the end, I will do a review of all the lecture notes before you start your final project. All right, so let's go into lecture notes. I think it's number 3. All right, so make sure you are in generative shape design. Okay, so let's go to CATIA. So we are in generative shape design, as you can see. Let me reset my toolbar. So I'm going to right click, customize, and you should already know how to do this. This is optional. Go to Tools, Restore Position. It restores all my toolbars to the default position. There it is, and close. All right, so make sure you are in generative shape design. If you are not, you may be in part design, for example. You can take a file, a CAD part, and jump between part design. And you'll see now we are in part design. Let me right click, go down to customize, and reset the toolbars in part design. Restore, okay, and close. All right, so we are in the wrong workbench. Let's go to generative shape design. Drop down, generative shape design. There it is. All right, so we're going to use the extrude command. Okay, so what does extrude look like? Let's go to these lecture notes. And I'm going to come back and review some of this stuff after the tutorials. And I'll use it as a refresher or as a summary or review of the commands. Okay, extrude is this icon here. Later on, we're going to be doing some of these other commands. So extrude. Let's go back. So extrude, right? Look for the surfaces toolbar. So when you extrude, you're going to pick a profile. It can be a curve. It can be a line. It can even be a point, by the way. Okay, so we're going to extrude in this tutorial a curve. In this case, I'm showing a line. And we're going to extrude, and we need to give it direction. Okay, which way do you want to extrude to generate your surface? Right, so think of it as those old school shades that you can pull on and then it retracts back into a tube, right? Or think of that aluminum foil that you unroll from the tube and you're just extruding it outward, right? Okay, same idea. All right, so let's go ahead and use the extrude command. Okay, so we're going to use this profile, and here whoever created this tutorial didn't use a geoset. They should have used a geoset. It's okay. It'll still work, but avoid creating geometry in a part body. It's not a good idea because it forces you to keep everything organized like a family tree. Geosets doesn't have to be structured like a family tree. It can be all over the place, like a big family reunion at the park. All the kids, grandchildren, grandparents, parents, great-grandparents can be all over the place, right? So we're going to insert a geoset. I'll call it my geoset, right? Name it whatever you like. And try and stay organized. Okay, there's my geoset. Okay, so I'm going to take this line and we're going to extrude. So here's extrude. So take the curve and we're going to extrude. Now the default is normal to the curve. So as you can see, this is a planar curve, meaning it only goes in two directions. In this case, it only goes in the XY direction. Okay, so this curve lies on the XY plane, or something parallel to the, my mistake, XY plane. Okay, so this curve completely lies on this XY plane. Okay, so it's a planar curve. It's flat, as you can see. Okay, so its default is to go normal to the plane. Or in this case, I should say it's the plane that it's currently lying on. All right, so that's extrude. We can use the green arrows to extend, right, as you can see. Okay, we can also say, hey, I want to go up to an element. Let me hit OK to exit. Let me change these. I'm going to take these planes and make them a little bit thicker so it's easier to see. And hopefully you're getting comfortable with making changes too. I'll make these thicker, making changes to the elements, whether it's in thickness, color, point type, line type, and okay. Okay, that's easier to see. Okay, so let's say I wanted to extrude up to an element instead of giving it a dimension. So we can go ahead and double click on the surface or double click on the tree, double click. Okay, we can either type in a dimension, as you can see, or we can pull on the green arrows, or just use the arrows to increase or decrease the dimension. Okay, so notice this one is 74, right? Going in this direction is 74, that's this one. Notice it changes as I pull on it. Let's say you wanted to extend it up to an element. It can be a surface on a solid, it can be another surface, or it can be a plane. So I want to say, hey, I want to, instead of giving a dimension, I want to extend this surface up to an existing element. Okay, and instead of dimension, right, we're going to go up to this plane. So it's turning red because it recognizes that something is changing. So I'm going to go up to this plane. Ta-da! See how it goes up to that plane? Pretty cool, right? And okay. And there it is. Okay, so that's extrude. Okay, you can also go with direction. Okay, I can take this curve. Let's see if it allows me to go in the Y direction. So here's Y going up. Z is going in this direction. X is going in this direction. Let's see if I can extrude going in the Y direction. Okay, Y direction. Okay, so we're going to deviate from the tutorial. So I'm going to extrude again. This profile. See, it's trying to go normal. Normal to the planar curve. So now let's say, hey, I want to go in the Y. So I'm going to right click in direction and go Y direction. And yes, it does work. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. There it is. So we're extruding in the Y direction. So you can also go with direction. It can be an axis direction or it can be a line. So if there's a line floating in space, a straight line, you can also use that as your direction. Okay. All right, so let me hit OK. Okay, you can also extrude a point. Okay, so let me go ahead and take this point here. Before I do, let me give it some color. Right-click properties. On my geo set, I want lines to be dark blue in this case. I'll make them thick. Okay, so any new lines I create or curves are going to be blue, dark blue. Okay, so let's say I wanted to extrude a point. You can do a point. Let's see what happens. I'm going to extrude this point here. So I'm going to pre-select it. It's going to be a little hard to see, but I'm going to pick this vertex. Okay, I think I did select it. It's hard to tell. Okay, so actually, let me do it again. Click in space. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Okay, notice how this highlights. It's telling me I selected something on the surface. So I'm assuming I was able to pick that vertex. My graphics is not as good, so maybe on yours it'll show up as a orange vertex, letting you know it's selected it. Okay, so let's do extrude again. Extrude. Okay, so yep, it did pick it. See up here, it says you chose a vertex on extrude 1. Okay, so it did select it and it's pointing to it. Okay, so for direction, I'm gonna go in the X direction. Okay, X direction. Right click, X direction. And it's already creating it. I know it's a little hard to see. Let me rotate. You can see it's creating that line. Okay, and just like on the surface, we can pull on the green arrows. Let's hit preview. Let me hit OK, see if it turns it blue. There it is. So there's the line. So yes, you can extrude a point. Okay, let's say your boss says, hey, you know what, go in the opposite direction or go in the Y direction. Okay, I can just double click and say, hey, instead of the X, so click inside direction, right click and go Y. There it is. Okay, we can see that. And again, you can use the green arrows to increase the length. And okay. And if I wanted to do an extrude of this line, hey, let's do an extrude. So I can also extrude a line. Hey, let's go in the X direction. Ta-da! Okay, so you are going to use extrude a lot if you're doing surfacing, okay? All right, let's go back to the tutorial. Okay, so we covered all this from the tutorial. Oh, you can also go up to a point. So it's asking me on this first surface we created. Hey, let's go up to a point. Okay, so let's look for that point. I did not see it. Let's go back. So here's a point somewhere in space. There it is, point 1. It's in the tree. Okay, there it is. I know it's hard to see. Let me change the color of the surface. Right-click properties. Let's make it a blue. Okay, so there's a point right here. There's that point. Right-click properties. Let's see if I can change the color a little bit so we can see it. So there's the point, right? Point number 1. So let me go back to this blue surface, the first extruded surface we created, and let me overextend it. Okay, so now in the tutorial it says, hey, go up 2 point. Okay, so instead of giving it a dimension, right now currently I have it at 170. See, I can Click on the arrows upward or downward to increase or decrease. Okay, so I can also say up to element, and I'm going to pick this point. So there it is. It goes up to that point. It's not touching it, but it does recognize the distance between the planar curve and the point, and that's how much it goes in length. All right. And there it is. Now, something that's cool about parametric modeling is it's smart modeling. Let's say I wanted to move this line over to this corner. So if I double click on this line, and instead of making this my vertex here, right, the original point, let's say I wanted to change my profile, and instead I pick this point. Notice how it transfers over. It recognizes a new point. It extrudes a point to create a line, and then the surface also moves with it. Pretty cool, right? So that's parametric modeling. If I go back to the blue surface, notice how everything turns red, because if I change the blue surface, anything connected to it, anything that depends on it, all the children and grandchildren will be affected, right? So if I was to increase this, so if I say, hey, I want to type in a dimension instead of going up to a point, oh, I did the wrong side. Let me go back. So I was supposed to do this side. Dimension. And I increase it. Oh, it's having trouble finding that point. That's okay. So I'm going to increase it by 200. The point is having trouble updating. And this does happen with vertices when you borrow a corner. I forgot to mention that. Let's go to 200 in length. Enter. So it's giving me a warning. Hey, that point that you're using to generate that blue line, it's having trouble updating. Okay, so, okay, and hit okay. Yeah, so I lost the point. See that? Okay, I wasn't going to cover this, but if you want to be an expert in parametric modeling, one thing you have to do is troubleshoot. You have to reconnect. So the point that created this blue line, which is extrude 3, is having trouble relocating that point because it moved. So here it is. So what we can do is double click on it and say, hey, this point now is right here. So we double clicked. So now it's saying, hey, well, where is that point? It's right here. And it's either going to accept it or reject it. Let's see what happens. And it did accept it. Okay, so there it is. All right, so we're going to stop there with this tutorial. I think I covered more than I was supposed to. Hopefully you learned something new on this one. All right, so so don't forget to save your file. Forgot to mention that. File save as. Save it somewhere, right? You don't want to save it in downloads. So go to your flash drive or go to the desktop and go ahead and save it in your creating surfaces. So here's the original one. I'll just here put my initials or type in complete and save it. Okay, so I'll leave it up to you where you want to save it. Okay, and again, there's no due date on these assignments. You can turn them in as you go or wait till the end of the 8-week course to submit it. Okay, just don't fall behind. All right, so end of video.